I cook for people with cancer. I cook for people that, you know, kids with autism, people with Crohn's disease, etc. And I saw the amazing transformation that eating real food, I'll say multi-nutrient rich, real food could do.
When you say real food, can you give our audience exactly what you mean? Do you mean vegetables, fruit? Do you mean meat? Do you mean all vegan, vegetarian? What do you mean?
I mean, everything you just said.
Okay.
And so the food is medicine discipline that I learned about, you ate according to your condition, according to the climate you were in, according to what you did. Like if I go out and I work out every day, I'm going to eat a different meal than someone that sits in a desk every day. And if you have a heart condition, you're going to do something different. So it was very, very prescription oriented.
But the main thing being that there's no chemicals.
But there's no chemicals. Yeah. In fact, the doctor said, he said, do you want to keep your kidney? Because I was I was medically oriented. I thought, this is going to fix me. He said, do you want to keep your kidney? And I said, well, yes. He said, then you cannot cheat. While you are recovering, you may not cheat. He said, you may not have any of the chemicals. And that's what he wanted me to avoid, all the processed food. So vegetables, fruits. Yes, there were grains. I had fish.
When you have been sick for that long and your identity is being sick and you've been around sick people, it sounds like, for cooking, do you find that it's hard for people to get out of being sick because they're so used to being sick? And sometimes when you're a little girl, that's how you get attention.
It becomes your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should clarify that what would happen after I had those very high fevers, and this is illustrating the fact that, you know, you watch something and you don't really think about it, you don't observe, and the doctors could have seen what was happening and discovered what was wrong with me a long time ago. But after I would have the high fever, like 105, 106 for maybe 3 or 4 days, I would be a new person.
Fresh.
Yep. I was fresh.
Huh.
And I had a life. And
so you liked the fevers?
Well, I learned to see that was, beneficial.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Why is that you would have that high of a fever and then feel fresh? Do you know why now?
Yes. Okay. The body never does anything wrong. It's brilliant. So if you have a fever, it's because, one, you're fighting a virus, a bacteria, or there's something going on that your body needs to mount up heat. So what do? We try to suppress it. And this was the thing that was interesting about my situation. My low-grade fevers, they couldn't suppress it with antibiotics or anything. It just wouldn't, I didn't respond. And then my high fevers, it didn't. My body was intense. I'm going to have a high fever. I'm going to get rid of this. And part of my problem that I had, that they discovered with the exploratory surgery, is I actually was born with 2 bladders.
Wow.
And one of the bladders does not have an exit.
So what does that mean?
And I was born with 3 ureters. And so that means that I had urine going down to this extra bladder, and it had nowhere to go. So it was just a bunch of infection, but they never cultured it. I never came out with cultured because, there was no outlet.
So you had a low-grade UTI?
Yeah.
Did you remember feeling like you had a UTI with the, you know how you feel when you have a UTI? It's so uncomfortable in your bladder.
No, see, I never had a symptom in my bladder. In the bladder that you're supposed to have, there was never a symptom.
So your body just couldn't tell.
So I didn't know.
Did they remove the other bladder it's still there? Okay, with this story, you have to go back to your son because you said there was 2 stories. So how does your son play into everything?
Well,
so that was the food part, and then you learned you kind of had this missing piece about the environment and told Douglas.
Yeah, right. So I had learned how important it was to remove chemicals from my diet, and watched people that I'd cooked for have spectacular recoveries. And so at age 10, my son had what was called a catastrophic chemical exposure. And he had been a very brilliant, very obedient, athletic, just the wonderful child. And so that's one day. And then the next thing we know, I picked him up at school, and he has blue lips. He has blue fingernails. And he's actually asking me if he can go to a friend's. And I said, have you been eating a blue popsicle? And he said, no. He said, I'm going to go to my friends and come get me. So I just couldn't figure out what was going on. So when I went to go get him, I could tell that there was something wrong. And as the night went on, it got worse and worse. And his eyes started tearing. He started jerking and having like little seizure type situation. And as I watched him, and I was trying to figure out what to do, I was going to take him to the hospital, etc. And I was making calls. I noticed that he reminded me of a sprayed roach.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
No, what I mean is, I don't know if you've ever sprayed a roach, but
No, I use Branch Basics. There's no roach spray in my house.
Okay.
You told me to get rid of my spray.
Okay, I don't know what that looks like. Well, when you spray a roach,
I know what it looks like.
they
Michael's like,
they
"We're good."
twitch. Their limbs uncontrollably
Neurological symptoms.
twitch.
When you look at your son and you think this looks like a sprayed roach, how are you feeling? You must be freaking out.
Well, when I made that connection, I thought, I am crazy. This is nuts. But it was so weird. He was acting so strange. Anyway, I called the Austin Pesticide Control Board. There's a hotline. It's an emergency. I cook for people with cancer. I cook for people that, kids with autism, people with Crohn's disease, etc.